Hey guys, it's Yorkie here with some Project Cars, and today I've got something very exciting in the form of coverage from both races at the ESL Go4 Cup Finals. And this will be coming to you in two parts, with this first video providing coverage of the first race and then the second video of the second race and the final results. So I was invited by ESL and Project Cars to spectate these two races and provide video coverage for you guys. And the drivers who have been invited back to this final are all battling it out for the grand total prize of €150. The first €100 going to the first place driver, and then the remaining €50 going to second place. So here is the list of drivers that are partaking in this final. Unfortunately, we had two no-shows from Boyd and also Kestrel, hence their car selection is unknown, but the rest of the drivers turned up, and there is the cars that they will be driving in these two races. Now, having raced online with a number of these guys in public lobbies and also in racing leagues, I know for a fact that these guys are very fast, so hopefully we should see some very exciting close battling between these drivers as they try to claim that prize money and also become the winner of the October ESL Go4 Cup final. So prior to the two races in this final, the guys had 10 minutes to do some qualifying, and here are the results of qualifying 1 for Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya GP. So in first position we had Khaki with a time of 141.583. Second position, missing out by 3 tenths, was Marcus Walter with 141.8. Less than a tenth behind him was F1 Massa with a 141.9. Alex turned up in fourth position with a 142.352. Tony R was then fifth in his Aston Martin with a 142.739. And then last place was Papan in his rough, 1.6 seconds behind Kaki's time of 143.230. So here we go then with race 1. You have to bear with me one moment whilst I hop into the spectator cam. And just lining up on the grid now there, you can see the drivers in front of us as the lights count down. And there is the green as we hop into the spectator cam now. I'll try and get you back on board with the drivers as soon as possible as they run down towards turn 1. Currently following F1 Massa at the moment, who's got Alex on his outside, and it looks like Marcus there is having a look around the outside of Khaki into turn 1, see if he can take an early lead. Unfortunately, he hasn't managed to pull the move off. Khaki with the inside line managed to defend that fairly well. It looks like F1 Massa has maintained his third position, and it looks like all the guys have got through the first 3 turns pretty smoothly, and it looks like they've all maintained the starting positions that they had at the beginning of this race as we come through the end of the first sector into this fairly slow to medium speed right-hander. Now following the leader of Khaki here in his BMW M3 as he comes into this slow speed left-handed hairpin. All the drivers still fairly close at the moment. Once again, jumping back to F1 Massa in third place, he's got Alex right on his tail, only a couple of car lengths between the two of them. All these drivers really pushing at this very early stage, as you can see in the background there. Tony R slipping away from the back of Alex a little bit, and Papan is sat on his rear tail in the rough. A couple of the drivers running a little bit wide, coming through that very fast right-hander over the crest of the hill. Now coming into this very heavy braking zone and this very tight left-hander that can be quite difficult to navigate, and there's also a prime overtaking opportunity as well. It looks like F1 Massa has managed to break away from Alex a little bit and slip up onto the rear wing of Marcus. As you can see there, Marcus in his BMW Z4 GT3 has come through the chicane towards the end of the lap and now into the final corner. Looks like Khaki is starting to eke out a little bit of a gap to Marcus, who's now coming under pressure from F1 Massa, who's going to be picking up the slipstream as we come down this long start-finish straight to start lap 2 and now down towards turn 1. Doesn't look like Massa is going to mount a challenge into this first turn and is instead going to hold his ground, going a tiny bit deep there in turn 1, which would have compromised his line a little bit through the second turn. Looks like Tony R in the background of the picture there, and his Aston Martin is managing to hold on to the back of Alex. The gap hasn't got too much bigger, and there you can see the current standing. So in first place we do have Khaki, Marcus Walter is in second, F1 Massa in third, Alex in fourth, Tony R in fifth, and in sixth position is Papan, who seems to be dropping off the back of Tony R a little bit. These first 5 drivers have got all fairly even spacing between them at the moment. As we come into this third gear right-hander, See the spit of flames coming out the side exhaust of the BMW M3 of F1 Massa. The guys trying to use as much of the track as possible, try and keep that flowing line, as it looks like Tony R's just gone a little bit wide there and has run even further wide on the exit of the very fast right-hander. Picking up the coverage with him now in his Aston Martin, nailing his braking point, getting the car slowed down and turned in rather nicely into the fairly tricky left-hander. There you can see Papand is not too far behind him, but does seem to be slipping back a little bit. He won't be picking up the slipstream that far behind. See if he can hopefully close up onto the back of Tony as we ride now with Alex. You see the guys there navigating the chicane fairly nicely, using an awful lot of curb there, it seems, from a number of the drivers. Once again picking up the coverage with F1 Massa, who is chasing down Marcus for second position at the moment. Once again, doesn't look like he's going to be able to mount a challenge into turn one. Not quite close enough, not picking up enough of the slipstream. Obviously these guys are using their own custom setups, so they'll be maximising the performance out of these cars that they are running, and with their fairly evenly matched pace, it'll be very, very difficult to really try and wring out a top speed advantage over another driver unless their car setup is specifically designed to do so. So F1 Massa following Marcus quite nicely. It looks like Alex is holding onto the back of Massa as well, so it seems like there could be a slight three-way battle here for second position. Kaki is slowly but surely starting to eke out a little bit more of a gap to Marcus, and there you can see Tony and Papand in the background of that camera shot as we follow the guys through the fast right-handers who come down towards the end of Sector 2 and into the start of Sector 3 at this circuit, the Catalunya, which is over in Barcelona. It's an F1 circuit, very interesting and quite a difficult track. It's very car setup dependent, and it's really quite difficult to really pick up a good flow and rhythm here. As you can see, a number of the curbs are quite high, designed to punish the drivers if they cut too much. However, these guys seem to be navigating this final chicane rather nicely. A couple of the drivers dipping more than two wheels behind the white lines, as it looks like Massa's got a very nice slipstream now right up underneath the rear wing of Marcus, coming down towards turn one. Will he have a look to the inside? No, Marcus goes defensive, forcing Massa to go around the outside. Both in the braking zone now, both nailing the braking points, so it looks like Marcus defended that very, very well and has managed to maintain his second position, but Massa is still right underneath his rear wing, trying to look for a slightly shorter line coming through this long right-hander. Instead he's going to just slip into the slipstream and see if he can mount a potential challenge into this right-hander. Instead, no, he just follows him through. Once again, these guys following each other very, very closely. This could potentially help Alex to bring himself up onto the back of Alex, and also help Kaki to extend his lead even further with these guys battling. Massa really trying to apply the pressure here to Marcus. As you can see, following very, very closely. He's going to lose a little bit of braking performance and also some aero performance following this close, but of course he will pick up a slight straight line advantage as well, and he seems to be managing those deficits quite nicely. As we come into the braking zone once again on this left-hander, looks like Marcus went a little bit wide there on the exit. F1 Massa having to dab the brakes to avoid making contact with the rear of Marcus's Z4. And he's done that very, very clean and fair driving by both of these guys so far. As we come now to the final stages of this fourth lap, coming through the chicane. Once again, the guys using all of the curbs that is available to them. And we'll see if Massa can pick up another slipstream here, and doesn't look like he's as close as he was on the previous lap, and I doubt he'll be able to mount a real challenge into turn one. Both guys nailing their braking points, getting the car slowed down. Marcus going a little bit deep there, which again would have compromised his line, which has brought Massa right up onto the rear wing of him. Massa may potentially go for a slightly later apex here and try and perform the switchback or undercut manoeuvre, as a lot of people like to call it. Try to take that shorter route through the exit of that long right-hander, but he's not going to be able to get to the inside line of Marcus into this right-handed hairpin, and instead tried to look around the outside, but that didn't quite work. Marcus defending his second position very, very nicely indeed. And obviously both guys are more worried about trying to slow down for the apexes and making sure they avoid making contact, as this is a 15-lap race. And whoa, Massa there getting a little bit of oversteer coming through. That left-hander has now actually gone and conceded a position to Alex as well, whilst trying to recover the car. So Massa has gone and slipped from 3rd position down into 4th. Alex has been promoted up into 3rd, which has obviously gone and given Marcus a fair bit of breathing room now behind him. We can see Alex there now in 3rd position, with Massa now behind him. And you can see there Tony R and also Papand. Yep, there he is appearing in the back of the picture, coming through that right-hander. So yeah, Marcus has now got a bit of breathing room to Alex behind him. It's a good second, maybe just under a second, and he's got a little bit of a gap to Kaki in front of him, who's doing a very nice job of extending his lead as we come down the start-finish straight now to start lap 6. And there we can see Kaki as he comes on his run down towards turn 1, nailing the braking point quite nicely, hooking up the apex brilliantly through turn 1 and also turn 2, looking very, very smooth at the moment. And there you can see the current standings in this race. So lap 6 out of 15, we've got Kaki in 1st position, Marcus Walter in 2nd, Alex in 3rd, F1 Massa in 4th, Tony R in 5th, and Papand in 6th position there. You can see the lap times that these drivers are doing, with Kaki in the lead. His best lap is a 1:41.5, which seems to be the fastest lap of the race so far at this stage. There is tyre wear and also fuel, which they will have to manage throughout the duration of this race, as both of those settings are set to real. So as the race goes on, they'll be eating into the tyre life of the tyres that they are running, and also the fuel loads will be going down as well. So obviously less tyre life there is, there'll be less grip, which will make it harder to manage the corners. However, the lower fuel loads will alter the balance of the car from the start and how it felt at the beginning of the race. However, it will also allow them to go a little bit faster. As we can see there, F1 Massa has managed to close up onto the back of Alex in the last lap or so, fairly close under the rear wing, and it looked like Massa got caught up on the curb slightly awkwardly there and went straight on at the exit, which has gone and cost him a little bit of ground to Alex. As you can see, a number of car links have been pulled out between the two in that little moment. And jumping on board with Tony, it looks like he's got a little bit of damage there. He must have picked that up out of camera shot, because obviously we didn't see the incident, so that's going to affect the performance of his car, and I'm not entirely sure how that actually happened to him. However, he is running in 5th place. He's got a fairly decent gap to Papand, who we now cut to, coming through turns 1 and 2 and into turn 3 in his rough. Papand is by no means slow. He's a very, very fast driver. He races in the AOR league that I myself have been racing in the previous season, and will be racing in the next season as well. And Papand is a very, very good quick driver in this rough. However, obviously compared to the other guys, it doesn't quite seem like he has to set up all the pace that the other drivers do. You can see him here running at the back of the grid, taking some very nice smooth lines, driving the car very nicely indeed. He's not hustling it too much. As we jump back to F1 Massa, who is obviously trying to recover his race and try and get back up into 3rd position, and potentially any places higher than that as well, as he made a mistake earlier on during the race, and also one on the previous lap, which cost him 3rd position, and also a potential challenge to reclaim his 3rd position. As you saw both guys there using an awful lot of curb. It looked like Alex took a lot more initially on the first part as we come into lap 8 now. And there you can see the results and the lap times that the guys are doing. So the best lap is still with Kaki with his 1:41.5, and on this previous lap he did a 1:42.2, which is slightly faster than Marcus, has eked out a couple of attempts. USSR Alex seems to be the one who's lapping the fastest at the moment, and is slowly taking 3 attempts out of Marcus on the previous lap. You can see the gap there visually as well. And the guys doing a very, very good job of nailing all their braking points and apexes. Doesn't seem to be like they're hustling the car too much. We've only seen one or two moments where F1 Massa has lost control of the cars. It looks like everyone else has managed to keep their cars very nicely under the control. I'm sure they're soaring away at the wheels in the cockpit themselves to try and keep the car on the track when they're really pushing at the limit. However, we haven't really seen, well, apart from Massa's moment that he had a couple of laps ago, any slides from any of the guys, any times that they've lost or momentarily lost control of the cars. We follow Kaki here as he comes through in towards the chicane. Let's see how he takes the curbs on this one. I'm just going to go right on board with him as well. You can see that. Didn't take too much of the first left-hander. The right-hander he took a little bit more off. Now you can see the telemetry view at the top there. You can see his throttle and also braking inputs. So you can see the speed that he's climbing to as we come down this start-finish straight and in towards the braking zone. Braking just before that 100-metre board. Using the brakes quite nicely and getting very smoothly on the throttle. Being fairly patient. Now getting full throttle as he comes out through the exit. And then lifting a very, very small dab of the brake as we come through this right-hander here of turn 2. You see running the curb there. He's about a tenth and a half off his fastest lap in the first sector. Taking a very nice smooth line. Not trying to hustle the car a little bit. Getting the apex hooked up quite nicely on the inside there, using the curb upon the exit as he gets on the throttle. And then running down into this third gear right-hander, using the curb on the exit. There we can see once again Alex with Massa right behind him, so Massa's managed to close up the gap quite nicely. Marcus is a good few car lengths, almost probably around about a second up the road from Alex at the moment. So Marcus isn't under pressure at the moment. Instead, the pressure is being applied onto Alex from Massa. And we're going to stick with these guys for a little bit and we'll see if Massa can mount the challenge and potentially retake his third position he had previously lost. See the guys there taking slightly different lines. Looked like Massa was using a lot more of the track than Alex was on the exit. Both guys running the curbs quite heavily through the chicane and then coming into the final corner. Both of them taking a very, very similar line and using that exit curb. As we come down the start-finish straight now, and I do have to say, I do really like the livery that Alex is running on that BMW M3. Looks absolutely fantastic. Looks very, very mean as well with the yellow GTE lights. Oh, the low again. Massa having a spin on the exit there of turn 1, recovering the car now back onto the circuit. Looked like it did a full 180. Obviously, must have locked the rear axle, and it now looks like that's given Tony R the opportunity to slip right up onto the back of Massa. Tony R losing out on a little bit of aero there and running a little bit wide on the exit of turn 3. Obviously the damage that he has to his car wouldn't have helped him as well. That would have pushed him out a little bit wider. So it'll be interesting to see if this can put a little bit of inspiration, I guess, a little bit of zazz into Tony and see if he can push and keep up here with Massa. So obviously Massa's pushing harder and will now be pushing even harder and trying to regain the ground that he's lost. And he's lost quite a lot of ground as well to Alex. I imagine he's quite far up the road and probably not within reach of third position anymore. You can see at the very top of the picture there, Alex in the background going up through. So quite a substantial gap to Massa, from Massa to Alex, and I don't think that with the number of laps that we have remaining that Massa is going to be able to push and close that gap back up, not without putting a huge element of risk of, again, making further mistakes. As we can see, everyone else has been fairly smooth so far from what we can tell. Obviously Tony R looks like he sustained some damage here off camera, so we don't know what happened to him. And you'll have to check out his video linked in the description down below to see what actually happened in his race as we come through turn 3. Still following Tony as he's gone rather wide there out onto the runoff area on the exit of turn 3. Looked like a slight bit of lock up there. He's gone and scooted off onto the inside and clipped with the wall. For some reason he's still riding the wall. I think this could potentially be some lag as he makes contact with the tyres. Yeah, it was lag. See him jump back there on circuit. So I highly doubt, even though it looks like the car is damaged even more, that was actually what happened in his race. You can see Marcus Walter there in second position there. You can just about see the gap from first to second. Now jumping to Kaki. He's driven a very nice race so far. He's got himself that gap to relieve himself of any real sort of pressure, and he can essentially just drive his own race at his own pace. Doesn't have to push quite so hard and risk making the mistakes. So he's done a very, very good job so far in this first round of this two-part final. Coming down towards turn 1. Again, making sure he nails the braking point. Hooks up the apex quite nicely on the inside there. And also through turn 2. Not hustling the car in any way, just taking it nice and smooth. Taking those sequence of corners rather nicely and coming into this hairpin. Using all of the exit curb as we come down into this left-hander and then the right that immediately follows, which kind of opens up the exit a little bit. Jumping there to Marcus as we come through the very fast right-hander at the top of the hill. Marcus and also Alex in the background, not really taking too much of the curb on the exit there. Keeping the car within the track limits quite nicely. And there we can see Alex in the rather nice blue and orangey red BMW M3 GT. He does also run with his lights on, as you can see, and it makes the car look quite mean and aggressive. So coming through the final turn now. Onto the start-finish straight. His fastest lap so far is a 1:42.062. So good lap so far by Alex. And it seems like he's got quite a bit of breathing room back to F1 Massa behind him. Now jumping back. And Tony R has managed to slip himself up into 4th position there. Yeah, you can see F1 Massa has slipped behind Tony R, so possibly another mistake from Massa somewhere along the line. I'm not too sure. Obviously it's happened off camera, I haven't actually been able to see it. There you can see F1 Massa now. He's lost some ground to Tony, so I'm thinking that he may have possibly had another mistake somewhere along the line, trying to push hard, and there's Papand in his rough. And I'm just trying to think of reasons as to why Massa would have lost the ground there and lost the position to Tony. May have potentially have been a cut track penalty. We've seen a couple of the guys, F1 Massa, one of them, Alex as well. They've been riding the curbs pretty hard through the final 2 corners, or shall I say that final chicane, and he may have just taken a little bit too much curb and got himself a 5-second cut track penalty. So there you can see the standings at the moment. You can see the drivers' best and previous lap times. So you can see Kaki's doing, oh, he's only 3/10 slower than his fastest lap on the previous lap, so he's still pushing reasonably hard. You can see he's just done another 1:41.9, so he's slowly eking that gap out to Marcus, who is behind him. You can see here Massa is trying to recover the ground that he has lost on the previous lap. You can see the gap is starting to close up to Tony R. There we can see Alex. You can see just how far up the road they are. There's Kaki in the lead. So there goes Marcus. There goes Alex. Let's see if we can pick up Tony R and also F1 Massa. And it looks like F1 Massa is now right underneath, or near enough, the rear wing of Tony. And we'll probably start to really mount a challenge and apply the pressure in the next few corners as they both come through. The left-hander that F1 Massa had previously made a mistake on many laps ago. I'm just wondering if damage that Tony has potentially got himself here is affecting his car's performance. Suspension and aero damage will slow you down on the straights, make it a little bit difficult to navigate the corners as Tony goes a little bit deep there in that left-handed hairpin, which has allowed Massa to gain a little bit more ground and get closer to the rear wing of Tony. However, he's not going to be able to find a way past in these closing stages of this lap, not unless Tony makes a massive mistake and just leaves the door open. So coming into the final corner now, and this will be the start of the final lap for these two guys as well. F1 Massa giving a little bit of a flash of the headlights there, trying to distract Tony, but he's doing it way before the braking zone, so that's not going to be an issue. Will Massa be able to mount a challenge down the inside into turn 1? No, they're both laying in their braking points, and Massa just stays behind Tony for the moment. Both of them coming through turns 1 and 2 quite nicely. Into turn 3 now. Look like Tony has gone a little bit deep there, and Massa potentially being able to slip his nose up the inside, but Tony managed to bring the car back in towards the apex and shut the door there. F1 Massa having to back out of it a little bit. Looks like Tony may have just gone a little bit deep there, which is exactly what he has done. It's allowed Massa to get up onto his inside. It'll be the outside for this corner. Surely he's not going to go around the outside in this left-handed hairpin. He's going to try it anyway. He's going to get himself a pretty good exit by the looks of it. And does he have the traction and the power to get and slip himself up in front of Tony? And yes, he has managed to do so. Leaving a little bit of room there on the inside and the left-hander. However, Tony didn't really go for it, and Tony conceded a position. So very nice move there by Massa around the outside of Tony to slip himself back up into 4th position on this final lap as well. And if Massa can hold it together coming through this final sector now, he will come away with 4th place in this race, and Tony will finish in 5th position. So coming now in towards the final few corners, this final chicane. So missing the apex a little bit on the first part and hooking the curb up on the inside for the second part as we come through the final corner now and across the start finish line to finish race 1. So here are the results then of race 1, and Kaki came home with the win, picking himself up 10 points. Marcus Walter finished 5.6 seconds behind him and gets himself 8 points in 2nd place. In 3rd was USSR Alex with 6 points and a further 6 seconds down the road from Kaki. F1 Massa in 4th, managing to gain himself a position on the last lap ahead of Tony R, who finished in 5th, and in 6th and last place was Papand, and obviously Boyd and Kestrel were 2 no-shows. So that concludes our coverage for race 1. If you want to head over to race 2, all you need to do is click on the annotation on screen right now and it'll take you straight to the coverage of that race. Or alternatively, if you check down in the description below, you'll see the links to the drivers who recorded their race, and you can see the individual driver perspectives and watch it from their view as well. I definitely recommend doing that, as that will be a great opportunity to see the lines and also see some of the events that unfolded throughout the duration of race 1 from obviously their own perspective. So thank you very much for tuning into this first race, and hopefully I should see you over in the coverage of the second round of this ESL Go4 October Cup final. Thanks very much for tuning in, guys. Hopefully I shall see you soon. Take care.